Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Luke Ness Monster, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new Star Wars The Black series, Boba Fett. This is, I guess, a Tython Jedi Ruins is the official name for the figure. We still don't have box images of it yet, but I'm guessing it'll probably be in a Mandalorian box. And it is a deluxe figure, so I cannot wait for this, but we're going to be talking about it on the channel here briefly. And real quick, before I do get into the whole rant side of this video, I do really want to come out and say that I really like this figure. It's a figure that I've been asking for a long time on the channel, if you guys do remember and you have been watching for a while. And I just have a few problems with the inaccuracies of the figure, and I did want to get it off my chest. First up, this figure is actually a Walmart exclusive, though. This is something I have mixed emotions about. I hate stuff being Walmart exclusives, and that's just because it's hard to pre-order. It's hard to find in stores. It's just a bad pre-order experience altogether, and it's hard to get the figure if you don't actually get it pre-ordered either. But this is one that I have a little bit mixed emotions about, and that's because it's not a super like a necessary figure like an Ahsoka or I don't know, an Anakin or Obi-Wan. It's not like a super main character. It's a variant of a Boba Fett figure. And because of that, it's one of those where it's just a repaint. It's one of those perfect exclusive figures because it's not one that everybody needs in their collection. I've seen a ton of people saying they're going to pass on it. And that's why I think this is a perfect exclusive. It being Walmart exclusive is where I guess the real problem comes in. But other than that, I do really like the figure, and I'm not too torn about it being Walmart exclusive. Another big problem I have with it is just the inaccuracies of the figure, but we'll get to that in a second. Another big problem is, of course, the fact that it's a deluxe figure. Deluxe figures are meant for bigger characters, or they're meant for figures with extra accessories. What they've been doing lately with Boba Fett style figures is they've just been really packing a normal sized figure with not a ton of extra accessories in a deluxe packaging and charging $30 for it because they know people are going to pay the price for it because people love Boba Fett and Boba Fett sells. And that's the reason they're doing it, but it's just really bad. For example, the first ever Boba Fett figure that was a deluxe figure was the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett that you actually see in front of you, and this was a deluxe figure, but it came with a ton of accessories. It came with a flamethrower effect, it came with blast effects for the jetpack, came with an extra blaster, a ton of extra accessories, and it was definitely worth the $30 price point. Then, the next three that they've come out with Cobb Vanth, the Book of Boba Fett version, and now this version, all have just been the figure, the jetpack, the removable helmet, and then the blasters, which is just standard for a normal Black Series figure. Look at, say, Bo-Katan, for an example. She comes with two blasters, removable helmet, and a jetpack. That's all of the exact same accessories that a Boba Fett comes with. So why is this one $30 when that one is $20? It's ridiculous, and they need to fix that. But they know that people are gonna pay $30 for it, and so they're just trying to get as much money out of everybody. And I really hate that about this Boba Fett. But even for me, $30, I'm willing to pay for this figure because this is a figure that I've been wanting forever. But like I said, this figure has inaccuracies, and that is really what I have the biggest problem with the figure. Is I'm just not too fond of how it looks, and I'm going to point out those inaccuracies right now. So this new Boba Fett is actually just a repaint of the previous Book of Boba Fett version, and for the most part that would work pretty well. For the most part, it is almost exactly accurate to what it looked like in the show, but it does have a few flaws here and there. And the main thing is in the shoulders. I'm going to call these, I guess, the cloth shoulder pads, and then of course he does have the Beskar metal shoulder pads too. But I'm going to call these cloth undersuit / cloth shoulder pads. The new Boba Fett, since this one is just a repaint of the old one, has these little cloth undersuits sticking out over top of the metal shoulder pads. And that's just not accurate to the show. That's accurate to Book of Boba Fett, and I like that for the previous mold, but the fact that they just repainted this to be this older version of Boba, it doesn't really work because it's not accurate to what the armor looks like. Throwing up the screenshot from the TV show, what this armor is based off of, as you can tell, there is no cloth undersuit going over this yellow shoulder pad at all. And that's my main problem, is at first glance it looks alright, but the more you look at it, it just looks really weird, and I'm not a fan of how it looks. And the main problem that I have with this is not the fact that they just repainted an older version. It's the fact that they used an incorrect version when they already have the mold for a correct version with Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth's armor is literally exactly what he wears in the show. So why didn't they just use that armor overlay? And if you don't know what I mean, for example here, this pretty much suit thing on Boba Fett, it's the same with the newer Boba Fetts as well. This pretty much armor piece here is like an overlay. So as you can tell, there's like a figure underneath this. It's like a t-shirt pretty much. It can't really come off, but it's an overlay, so obviously this is all the same mold. And yeah, they could obviously just reuse this mold for the overlay on the new Boba Fett, and it would be accurate to what it looks like in the show, and they didn't. And that's the main problem I have. And now, so I kind of want to take a deep dive into looking at this figure and trying to figure out why they decided just to repaint this old figure rather than, you know, mishmashing and making a correct version. And I think we already know the answer is Hasbro's cheap, and they're going to try to just get out any cheap repaint of any product that they can and make as much money as they can. And that's pretty obvious, but I do want to try to look at this logically and give them the benefit of the doubt. But we do have to check that out first. So my immediate response was, why didn't they just use the Return of the Jedi / Cobb Vanth overlay that has the correct armor? Why didn't they just use that instead of repainting the old one? And from what I could tell, looking at that armor compared to the newer version, this would work at first, as it would fix the overlay problem. But as you actually can tell, I'll show you guys with this one because I have it in front of me. These armor pieces are actually built into the overlay, the like shoulder pads. So that jetpack fell off. We're gonna take it off right now, but it's built into the overlay, and as the new figure, it's actually built onto the arms and not the overlay, which basically means that if you just use this overlay without changing the arms at all, then there would be 2 sets of yellow shoulder pads, and that is of course inaccurate because he didn't have 2 sets of yellow shoulder pads. Plus, another problem is he doesn't have the kind of like scarf / neck piece that the newer version has, but of course that is, I think, solved pretty simply with just using a new mold for that, or you could just use the Cobb Vanth version of it, as it is very, very close as well. And then my next immediate response is just use different arms. Hasbro mix and matches figures all the time. For example, the Bad Batch Elite Squad Clone Trooper, the top half of the torso is like the new clone body, and then the legs are the old clone body. So you can't tell me that they don't mix and match figures like that, and I know they can. So this is something that I wish they would have done. They could have just used different arms. Could have used the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett arms and just repainted it. You could have used the forearms, I guess, not the forearms, but like the shoulders from the Tusken Raider Boba Fett, which I'll throw up a photo of right now. You could use the forearms from that and still use the gauntlets from the newer version. Either way, I don't really care, but they could have found a way to mix and match these figures to make it work. So that is one way they could have done it. They could have used the old armor with different arms, and then of course some extra neck piece added. Or this is something else they could have done. They could have just used the Tusken Raider Boba Fett and threw the armor on top of that, considering that that figure is literally what he was wearing before he got the armor. So wouldn't it make sense just to add armor to that? But there's a few problems with that. The main problem with using the Tusken Raider Boba Fett is it doesn't have some of the already existing armor pieces like the gauntlets and the knee pads. Those are on the other figures, but not this one, and that's not an overlay. Those are actually built into the arms and the legs, so you'd have to swap arms and legs. But like I said, that's not a big deal. Hasbro's done it before, and they can easily just swap the arms and the legs from the already existing Book of Boba Fett version. The big problem is the chest and the shoulders. The neck pretty much has this big scarf piece built into the mold, and it has those little shoulder pads that kind of stick out of like the cloth and the shoulders, and I don't think it could fit an overlay on top of that. Like I said, I just don't think like the neck would get in the way. And that's one thing that I have a big problem with. Like, this is a figure that is supposed to wear a cloak. Like, I really appreciate that they add all the detail underneath the cloak to make the figure feel more special. I absolutely love that. That's super cool. But the problem with that is that since this figure is supposed to wear a cloak, couldn't you have just, like, made this figure able to be swapped with the the armor to go right on top of it. I mean, I don't get why you wouldn't have done that. Like even if you just made the suit that he's wearing right now an overlay, take that one off and put the armor on top of that, that would have fixed that problem completely. And they didn't do that either. Like they had every opportunity to make this figure a perfect fit for the new version rather than just repainting the Boba Fett version, and they didn't. And that's another problem I have. So there you go. Hasbro had a few options on everything they could have done to make this figure more accurate, and they chose to do the less accurate version by just repainting the Boba Fett version of the character. And it doesn't really work in my opinion. It looks a little funky. Obviously, it's good enough for government work, and it'll look fine in your collection, but it's just not accurate to the show. And if I'm paying deluxe prices for a figure that shouldn't even be deluxe in the first place, I want to be getting a quality product that's accurate to the show. You know, the vintage collection is going to come right around in like a week or so and reveal a completely accurate version of it, like they did with the Boba Fett version too. And it's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. I don't know what they're doing. This is supposed to be an accurate character to the film, and instead they're deciding to cheap out rather than giving us accurate versions of the character, and that's the problem I have with it. And plus, this is also a figure that I've been asking for almost 2 years now, and the fact is that they didn't give us the correct version. This is my favorite version of Boba Fett altogether. Heck, that episode of Mandalorian might be my favorite just piece of Star Wars media altogether in all of Star Wars. And because, you know, Boba Fett is my favorite character, and the fact that they didn't do his character justice, it hurts me deeply, and it really pissed me off. So, there you go. I just wanted to get that off my chest, point out those flaws, because I didn't see a ton of people talking about it. Yeah, it's not a super like big detail, and a lot of people probably miss it at first glance, but it's something that I really noticed, and it bugged me for quite a bit. So I did want to talk about it on the channel. So thank you guys so much for watching. I just can't believe Hasbro found a way to screw that up, and I'm guessing they were assuming people wouldn't notice, but I noticed it immediately. So yeah, comment down below. What do you guys think about this? Would you prefer the correct version, or is this version fine? And I'll see you guys in the next video.